Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Boobies.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome to
Boobies.
Boobies. That's right. We're your hosts. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Joshua.
And today we're here to talk to you about
Ju-on. Yeah,
Ju-on.
That's a really good interpretation.
The Grudge from 2002.
A Japanese supernatural horror film.
Yes, directed by Takashi Shimizu.
And it is the third installment in the Ju-on series.
Yes.
First to be released theatrically. Interesting. Okay, cool. So I wonder if those other two films kind of maybe go into the backstory of like the family, the first family.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And maybe explain a little bit more about like the inspector from the first daughter
film.
And stuff. Yeah. And yeah, I wonder if they explained his life a little bit more and what he saw in the house. And because it was a little confusing at times. It was kind of hard to keep up with. It was like it almost had overlapping timelines.
Yeah,
Again.
I think it did create that kind of like a Haunting in Hill House moment, like where people's loops were almost getting like distorted at a certain point.
And I was like, what is going on?
Especially when the dad sees Izumi, his daughter, but she's like older. Yeah.
Which I didn't realize that was his daughter because the first time we had seen her, she was younger until later on when she finds her dad. And then I was like, oh, that. And then I put two and two together that it was the same name and stuff. And so I was like, oh.
But it was confusing. You're right. Because I also, too, was like, what's happening? Especially in the scene when they're both in the house together at that one moment. But yeah, we start with our opening scene and it just kind of jumps right into it with several kind of to an incident that's happening kind of predating everything that's about to happen in the film.
Yes, it says Ju-on, the curse of one who dies in the grip of powerful rage. It gathers and takes effect in the places that the person was alive. Those who encounter it die, and a new curse is born.
Okay. And the dad is essentially, we kind of get the gist that he's like murdered the mother. There's blood. It's just like a bunch of like close-ups of him. And then,
horrific scenes, basically.
Yeah.
He's like biting his nails and it's so bloody. And then we see like the mom covered in blood. The cat. Yeah. He grabs the cat and like breaks the cat's neck or something.
And then we see Toshio.
Toshio, yeah.
Just kind of like in horror of what's going on. And then that's whenever we kind of get a title card of Ju-on.
A very simple title card. Nice red lettering on a cream colored screen in the bottom right hand corner.
And we cut to Miss Rika. we cut to this. The movie is going to be separated into chapters, and the first one is Rika, and she is working at the social welfare center, and she is, whatchamacallit,
being asked to check in on someone, basically.
Exactly.
And because the guy whose name we get later, and I definitely didn't write it down now, but the guy who's working there, he, I just call him Rika's friend a lot too. Is like, hey, I've tried reaching these people, but they're not answering. Can you just go in and check in on them?
I think I got his name some point later. I think it starts with like Toyama or something like that.
Yeah, I have it in here somewhere as well, but
but yeah, so, and she's basically like, I'm just a volunteer, like I don't really do those things, like I just work here, I don't go and check on people's houses and stuff like that. But he's like, please, like if you do this, I'll buy you a dinner. And she's like, no, like you don't have to do that. But he basically doesn't take no for an answer and just leaves her with it.
Yeah.
And he goes and talks to someone else, and she starts to walk to the house.
And I feel like as immediately as she starts pulling up to the house, I feel like she can sense the evil, because she kind of pauses and then approaches the house. But yeah, I feel like she could like tell
pick up on
that
it.
There was something bad vibes going on.
And she gets into it. She walks into the house and she's like, well, she's knocking on it, of course, like any normal person would. Nobody's answering. So she walks in. And
she's saying like, Gomen, sorry, like, sorry for intruding, basically.
And she realizes immediately that the house is in the mess. There's just crap everywhere. It looks like someone who has neglected their house and like has been hoarding and eating and just leaving wrappers. And she kind of is looking for people and doesn't see anybody until I think she hears Sachi, right?
Yeah, she sees, I thought it was a child's hand at first through the like partition, the little sliding door. She sees a hand like
kind of
hitting on the door. Yeah. And then she goes in there and it was the grandma. And
she finds her just on the floor.
As an adult.
Yeah, and she's like not in good shape. She looks like she's definitely been just left there alone and neglected, and like she definitely can't take care of her own self. And so, you know, she's trying to talk to her like, hey, like what's going on? Are you okay? I was sent here to check on you. And she's unresponsive for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not really responding at all. And so Rika helps get her cleaned up and is helping clean the house. And like is giving her a sponge bath or a washcloth bath, wiping her down and stuff. Cause I think she had been like in her own
filth.
Yeah. And stuff too. So she was helping clean that up. But yeah, she's cleaning the house whenever she vacuums up this photo. And I was like, that was either intentionally messed up or it just got conveniently messed up that way from the vacuum.
Yeah. It seemed intentionally like
cut out the mom's face and stuff.
That part. Yeah.
And so yeah, the photo, it's missing. It's a photo of family, a dad, a mom, and a little boy. And the mom's face is like cut out from the photo. And then it was all crumpled up and cut and stuff. So it was like kind of really hard to tell like who was in the photo and whatnot. But as she's doing that, she hears some scraping coming from a room upstairs. So she follows it.
She does. She's going up there. And then that's whenever she ends up getting all the way to a bedroom, and she's looking around, and immediately we can tell that there is a closet. It's really weird because it's taped up on all the sides. And she's like, huh, and you can hear the scratching coming from inside there. And then she hears a meow, and she's like, oh, so there's a cat in here. So she like takes the tape off and she opens it up, and we see the cat just waiting there. But then she realizes in the corner that there's a little boy in there as well, and obviously startles her.
Yeah, and he's just sitting there with his knees tucked up kind of to his chin, with his hands on his knees and just moving his little fingers about, and just like he does throughout the entire movie. He always sits like that.
Yeah. And she is calling it in. She's like, hey, I found this boy here. The parent, like the grandma's here. There are no adults. Nobody's been here. Kind of like, what do we do? And so, but then like right after she calls that in, we hear the phone ringing, and then the voice answering machine picks it up, and it's Hitomi. Yes. And she's leaving her a message of like, hey, like, how's mom? I haven't heard from y'all. Can you please call me back? I'm starting to get worried.
Yeah. Which we get that phone call later on too. And so like we see that everything's happening kind of all at once, but also at like different times. I don't know. It's
all connected somehow.
Yeah, it's all connected for sure. But how it's connected is a different story. But she asks the little boy his name, and because she finds him at the stairs, and he's looking down the banister at her, and he says that Toshio is his name, and basically she is there, and he starts to look off to the corner, and so she kind of follows his gaze into the grandmother's room, and this spirit, this like long-haired spirit, it kind of reminded me of 0.0 megahertz with the hair and stuff.
I remember that.
But and it takes over the grandma basically while Toshio and Rika watch, and they don't know what to do. Rika passes out.
Yeah.
Goes unconscious. And
then we're just left with it being dark, and then we cut to a different chapter, and it's now Katsuya. Yeah.
But oh,
isn't it?
Katsuya kind of sounded like Mitsuwa, which is the Japanese grocery store here, and then it made me want curry.
Now you're hungry, and now we're hungry.
And now I'm hungry.
It's okay. Katsuya, we're with a different family, but
and then like chicken katsu.
Yeah, that does sound good. We have it's for finding out that Sachi had a son and a daughter-in-law, and they were taking care of her. And then in the same house where they were staying, Toshio is appearing, and also the black cat is appearing. Right, and then I'm like, oh, this is because it's happening quick. But then Kazumi is the one who goes up and starts to see Toshio on the stairwell, right?
Yeah. Kazumi is she's hearing footsteps at night while she's trying to sleep. And Katsuya, that's the husband, right?
Yeah, Katsuya is the husband.
Okay. Yeah. And he is just sleeping through it all. And she can hear someone at night just going throughout the house. And then like they wake up in the morning, the house is a wreck, which it seems very like childlike energy to leave the house like that. But she's going through, she makes breakfast. She reminds him that, Hitomi is coming later that day.
And he's like, oh my gosh, it's Friday already.
Yeah, and very typical, just, run of the mill morning talk, and like talking about how time gets away from you. And then she falls asleep on the couch just to hear these like running footsteps, and then her glass of tea clattering and like falling over. And she thinks it's the mom, the grandma. But then
realize it's not grandma because she hears the stairs noises again.
Exactly. So she follows the sounds upstairs, and she's like turning the corner, and then we can see Toshio's little face poking out from behind I can't make it happen. I can't. I was trying to make it like poke out, but I can't do it.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toshio's little face is just poking
he's messing
out.
with her.
Yeah, and then she rounds the corner on the stairs, sees the little black cat there, and this if I saw this in real life would freaking cry. Because then we just see this little pale hand grab the cat, and not in like a violent way or anything, but like when someone else is not supposed to be in your house, and then you just see this little hand grab this cat that's also not supposed to be in your house. I would,
and it's a great hand at that, and it just like loop, slides, pulls it out of frame, and then she's like, "What the fuck?" And then she goes upstairs, of course, as one does, and not just running away. And she gets to the bedroom, right?
Yeah,
or somewhere, because she like gets startled to death by the cat.
Yeah, because the cat is like squealing, and then she screams, and then this is where I was like, Kazumi is probably dead. But she's not dead.
No, she is.
Mom's, what's her name? The grandma's Sachi.
Sachi.
Sachi knows what's up. Sachi knows something's happening in this house. She's more in tune.
And then because Katsuya comes home and he's looking for her, and he just goes to mom. He's like, "Oh, whatever," and then ends up going upstairs, and he sees Kazumi on the bed, and he's like, "What? What's going on? Or are you okay?" And she's like not responsive, and that's whenever he sees. Then he looks over to the side, and the cat and Toshio are there, and he's like, "Ah!" and they're like, "Meow."
Yeah, because at first Toshio walks behind him, and then he doesn't see him, but he can like sense him.
Yeah,
and then the little boy is like, he's like looking in the closet, and the little boy Toshio is like over Kazumi, and then finally he sees him, and then Toshio just opens his mouth, and he's like, "Ah," but it's like cat squealing that comes out, which was pretty also terrifying. I was like, "Ooh, that's pretty creepy."
And he finds oh yeah. He scares her really good, and that's whenever Kazumi like just dies, I guess, because she is just like accepts the fear. I have no idea, because she's just like looking at him, and then she gets her like and then dies, and he's just like, no.
I think she gets scared to death. But I was like, Kazumi dies for real this time.
And Katsuya is just sitting there like biting the fuck out of his nails.
Yeah, and then he takes Kazumi into their room, or into that other room.
Yeah, because Hitomi arrives.
Yes, and then Hitomi is looking around and like goes and talks to Sachi and is like, "Yo, what the fuck's going on?" She obviously doesn't say that, but she's like, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna go make some dinner." And she goes to start making dinner, but then she investigates whenever she hears a door close upstairs, slams. And so she goes up there and is starting to get up there when Katsuya comes out and is like, "No, you have to go."
Yeah. "You caught us at a bad time. Like, you have to leave." And she's like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And he just literally basically shoves her out the door. He doesn't really give her much of an explanation. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's going on about how she had another man and that's not his child and stuff. So I guess he's assuming that Toshio is.
I think he's possessed.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or I don't know. I think he's getting possessed by the spirit of that the dude.
Psyche.
Of the first dude. Whose name is Takeo. Takeo.
Okay. His last name is Psyche.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so, and then he goes back up into the upstairs, and there's like this little window that's like inside the house. Like it's like a window that leads to just inside the house, which is very odd, because it like looks like it opens up and stuff. And we get just a face of a woman in there, and it's like, oh shit, And I think that was the original, like the Grudge.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I think her name was Kayako.
Yeah.
Kayako, yeah. There's so many names in this film, to be honest.
There really are. And especially when it's not, whenever it's not in a language that you're familiar with, it's a little bit harder to follow. But she is played by Takako Fuji. I think Yuya Ozeki plays Toshio, and then Megumi Okina plays Rika, and then Misaki Ito plays, I think I'm getting that right. I don't know. I'm a little confused now, but I think that's who all plays who.
I'm like, it's more names. But we now are on to another chapter, next chapter, and it is Hitomi's chapter.
Yes, the sister.
I really enjoyed how it all kind of got broken down.
Yes, it made it very digestible. It's like 5 little movies
in one
that like tell you 5 different deaths basically, or disappearances, and
we get to see how the stories all interlink, because it's kind of like you said, kind of all because
then like the last one, the last one is like it's the Grudge's story, and so then we get basically everything coming together.
Because even right here, this is where we get her side of whenever she was leaving that phone call on the answering machine for Kazumi and Katsui. Oh my gosh, Katsuya. And then this is whenever we have Rika. I think we get Rika back in the mix.
Yeah. At some point, I definitely stopped to eat pizza. So
no, you're good.
I stopped taking notes a little bit.
I think Rika, we get back she's back in the story a little bit, but then it cuts to Hitomi, and she is in the bathroom, and she's getting a phone call, and she thinks that it's Katsuya, but it's really not, because it's his caller ID, but it's the Grudge voice being like, and then she's getting like thuds in the restroom, and she thinks it's because I guess she thinks that they think she's being rude, and she's like, I just hung up, like, sorry. And then like as she leaves the restroom, we hear this coming from the same bathroom, so she gets spooked, and she goes to the security, and she's like, hey, like, you need to go check on this. And so
because she even sees the like black long haired mass appear from the stall, and then that's when she's like, nope,
no. Yeah, and she goes and gets security, and she was waiting in the room while the security guard goes to check it out. But she is also looking at the security camera footage and is seeing that he is being overtaken by this like dark shadow, and she does what one sane person should do, and she gets the fuck out of there.
Yeah, poor security guard gets got.
And she leaves. She gets to the elevator. I love how she gets there, and like someone like wants her to stop it, but then
she's like, closed door.
Yeah, it looked like a little schoolgirl. So I was thinking, like, was that Itsumi? Like at some point?
Yeah, maybe.
And then we have her going up the elevator, and I love how Toshio is just like on every level,
on each floor. Yeah, you can see Toshio's little face, and he's just staring right at her. And then she gets another phone call whenever she gets up to her apartment, and she is like, it's from Katsuya again, and she is, I was like, ooh, I wouldn't trust that phone call immediately. And he's like, hey, I'm outside, which apartment number is yours? I'm outside your house, like, let me in, blah blah blah. Yeah. So she goes and she looks through her peephole. She sees him on the other side, but whenever she opens the door, he's not there.
Also, it was like he said he was outside, and then he got there in like 1 minute.
Yeah.
Or like 30 seconds. Yeah.
In the time it took for her to walk from the place to the door. Yeah. And and then as she opens the door, we can hear from the phone in her hand
so she throws and leaves her phone outside, and then like goes and unplugs the phone line and gets in bed.
Yep. And then she is in bed and she turns on the TV and it makes all of a sudden the face starts distorting and like staticking, like going in and out until it freezes on the face and it's like twisted all perfect. Up. Just like from The Ring as well. And
this movie got a lot of looking on the like stuff, it got a lot of comparisons, which obviously we can tell to The Ring, and I guess The Ring came out first.
Yeah, because the American version of The Ring came out in 2001.
Yeah,
and this came out in 2002.
We covered Ringu. Was Ringu like 99?
Yeah, like something like that.
Mm-hmm. And so we have, of course, her.
Because I remember comparing the American Grudge to the American Ring, too, and being like, just the same thing as The Ring. Like, I remember thinking that as a little kid and being like, The Ring was better, but I watched it not going in thinking that The Ring was better today. Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed this film on its own.
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah. And then we have her then like she goes back inside. That's right. Oh, the TV. Yeah, it's distorted on that face. And then she looks under the covers because she starts to freak out and she feels something underneath her and she looks under the and we see a spirit ghosty
this ghost. Part scared me.
Yeah, and then it's like,
as I said with what movie was it? Paranormal Activity. Don't mess with the covers.
Yeah.
Don't mess with my safe spot. And this one, it just like all of a sudden you see the covers start ballooning up like a mountain, and then she lifts up the covers and there's just a whole ass person on top of her, like,
yeah, and just making noise, and then with the like vocal fry, and then she gets just somehow snatched into the void. I don't know.
Infinity. Yeah, she's gone.
She gets taken under, and then we get Toyama. Under.
Yes, and so now it is Toyama's time. And he's going to the house, and Toyama is the friend of Rika.
That is Rika's friend who set her up with this whole thing from the first place.
And the whole reason Rika's there at all, and not good. Poor Rika.
Yeah, he got her killed essentially, but he ends up going to the house and he finds Rika passed out. And this kind of basically reopens up a police investigation into the house.
And was Sachi dead?
Sachi was dead because they find all the bodies. They find Sachi and they find the couple upstairs.
He finds Rika in the corner, spaced out, and then they're trying to call Katsuya's phone. And then they hear his phone ringing from inside the house. Yeah. And they follow the ringing and it gets them up to the attic. And they find both Katsuya and Kazumi dead.
And then, so then they're just like going through all of this, basically the whole investigation. And then we get cut back to Rika, and she's with her friend Mariko, yes. And she's like, trying to make sure that she's okay. Yeah, it's Mariko. And then she gets to talk to the Mariko. Okay.
Mariko.
And she ends up talking to the detective because he comes and he's asking her some questions. He's like, so you claim to have seen a little boy? And she's like, yeah, have you found him? He's like, we can't find the little boy. Like, we don't know who you're talking about. And she gives him a name, Toshio. And so thankfully she gave him that name, because then it cuts to him talking to his other detective buddies, and they're trying to link like the details and put pieces together. And we find out that this horrible crime happened, and which is explaining the first crime, where the dude had killed his wife and then his son. And that's whenever the detective is looking in the file and everything, and he realizes that
Toshio is the name of the little boy who he didn't die, he disappeared.
That's right. Yeah.
And but and it says all the families before them all died or disappeared too. So anyone who's ever lived there has just like died or disappeared. And then, sorry, Emma just messaged because I asked her if she had ever seen the American Grudge, because she said that she didn't watch any of the spinoffs and stuff from this Grudge.
Yeah.
And so I was like, did you see the American Grudge? And she said, yeah, it's basically shot for shot, but she didn't like it as much.
Yeah. It makes me want to watch the American one just to
just compare. To see.
But she ends up they're linking all the details together, like we said, and then that's whenever we cut to now. We learned that Kiyako was left and killed and left in the attic of the house. So that's probably why Kazumi and
Katsuya.
Yeah, were found up there. And then we cut to, I think Toyama, or if not Toyama, a different detective is now approaching our friend who is Azumi's dad.
Yes, it was a different detective. It was the lead detective on this. Toyama was the
just like he works for the welfare center place.
Yeah. But now it was the lead detective, and he's approaching the old investigator on the Psyche case investigation, and he's like, I quit that, or Seiki. He says, I quit, and like, I don't want anything to do with it. And then he's like, well, 2 more people have died in that house. And so actually 3 more people, because the Sachi was dead too.
Yeah.
And so, but I think he said 2 more people have died in the house. And so they were like, you kind of have to come back, or at least help us with this, because something's going on here.
And he, I guess, neglectfully, that what's the word I'm using for? Like, he does end up working with them, but he obviously doesn't want to work with them. And so they take him to is this where they're like showing him different parts of the case and stuff?
Yeah.
But then they like get called away because
because they end up getting called away. But they're basically explaining that Toshio went missing over 5 years ago and was never found. And they're explaining this to Rika, I think, this moment. Yeah. And they were like, even if he were alive, he would be 11 years old by now, and he would not be looking like exactly like he did in that photo. So like, this can't be really happening. And this is where they find Toyama dead under the sink.
And then they go and get and disrupt, them watching like the videotapes of what Hitomi saw earlier. And they explain to the detectives that homeboy who is friends with Rika is dead. And so they're like, oh, crap. So now they go out to deal with that. And then
they leave old investigator guy to watch the security footage by himself.
And he is watching it, and he sees this dark, shadowy figure grab the security guard and bring him into the thing, and then come out and then walk up kind of slowly towards the camera and then right onto the camera. And then we see some eyes just watching there.
Yeah. I assume they were Toshio's, or maybe the Grudge, his eyes. The mom.
The original.
Yeah. But yeah, it like takes over the footage and eyes appear. It was pretty creepy too, because you just see this black mass like skulk out and then just get closer and closer to the screen until all you can see are eyeballs.
It's super spooky. It's super spooky enough to spook Mr. Investigator Man, because he ends up going to the house and wants to try to burn it down. He starts pouring like gasoline everywhere. But at the same time that he's doing this, he like ends up opening a door and he sees Izumi, but like an older Izumi.
Yeah.
And she's like leaving the house, and then he sees other schoolgirls in a different room. And he notices that they're looking at like something, and they kind of walk towards it, and then they just start screaming their heads off. And then the Grudge starts like creepily doing that thing and
Crawling.
walking and crawling towards him, and he obviously gets spooked and like starts to run out. But at the same time, the cops show up and the other detectives, and they're like, what are you doing here? And they're trying to get him to calm down, but then he runs out of the house, and then they end up seeing the Grudge spirit like work its way down the stairs.
Yeah.
And then I guess they die. I don't know, because we don't ever see them again.
Yeah. And before the old detective goes to the house to douse it with gasoline, Rika wakes up to Toshio standing at her bedside, and then the Grudge lady over her face going,
yeah. Like they're just haunting her.
Just creepy, because she was like bent over in such an unnatural way. Like whenever it panned out, because at first you just saw her like face.
Yeah.
But whenever it panned out and showed her whole body was just bent in the most unnatural way over the bed.
Yeah.
And it just looked so creepy.
Like that no actual human being would be able to do that.
Yeah, because it was like bent mid back, like more hinging at the hips. I don't know. It was just weird.
And when we cut to a new chapter, and it's Izumi's turn.
Yes, it is now Izumi's turn.
Yeah.
And I thought at first she found a missing poster for herself, but then I realized it was a missing poster of her 3 friends later on. And it was the 3 friends that we saw with her in the house.
Yeah. And we also have that whole moment of like her and her friends looking at photographs on the like bulletin boards at school, and they go up to the teacher because they're like, why is there's no picture of Izumi? And so the teacher's like, okay, like I'll have that ready in a week. And then they leave.
They were like a week.
Fire. Mm-hmm. And then she ends up running home spooked because she saw the sign of the girls missing. And then on the news, we hear that Rika's body had been found, and she had been missing for some time. And so we are more so alluded to, like there's been a little bit of a time jump, I guess, in this story. But Izumi is really scared, and you can tell that she's scared because like she's acting spooked. I don't know. And then that's whenever it cuts to like, I guess the week has passed. I don't know. And she like, I guess hasn't been going to school because the friends stopped by her apartment, and the mom opens the door and looks like she's like just as spooked or going through something as well. She don't look good. And then she's acting super creepy, and she lets them come in, and they go to Izumi's room, and she like kind of doesn't even want to they're trying to talk to her to let her in, and the door just like opens on itself, and they walk in, and she's all the way in the corner in the bed, just like fetal position, scared.
Yeah, holed up and in the dark, and her friends are like, isn't it a little dark in here? And she was like, leave the curtains closed.
Yeah.
And then she starts basically going on about, this is where I got pizza. But she starts basically going on about how she was there with the 3 girls whenever they went missing, but then she left early because she got scared and left them there, and then now they haven't been seen since. And so she feels like some sort of guilt attached to it, like, she was like, it's my fault, and felt bad for leaving them. And
so now she thinks they're haunting her.
Yeah, which they are.
And they're coming to get her. She's not wrong about that. And so obviously her friends are like, oh, that's crazy. Like, you're acting like a nut. And so she, they start to try to like take down the curtains, and she freaks out, and she's like, oh my God. And then they notice that she's put newspaper all over all the windows to block it out. And then they're just like, all right, well, we hope you feel better, kind of essentially, basically. And they leave. But before they leave, the mom comes to them and is like basically saying like, this is how my husband was acting before he died. So
everything like, having to be blacked out and wanting to be in constant darkness and afraid of everything and stuff. And that's exactly how he was before he died.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, of course, that she confessed, Did you know, or you just said that, my bad, that she was in there with the girls and like she ran away, left them. Yeah. All that. And yeah. And so then, yes, she ends up, the girls walk away and they're like, oh my God, we forgot to give her the pictures. And then they take a look at the pictures. And that's when they notice that the pictures with her and her friends, like all of their eyes are like blacked out essentially. Like they look like holes almost, like gouged out away, like shadows. And they're like, oh my gosh, like why is it like that? What's happening? Very reminiscent of The Ring, when their photos would be all like kind of blurred out.
Yes, sorry, the audio like cut out completely and then my screen went black.
Oh, are we back?
Yeah.
For you, it didn't do anything on my side.
Okay, yeah, my screen went black. And not like my whole screen, but like the recording screen went black. And had 2 loading symbols in it.
Maybe it's the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, my Wi-Fi is pretty strong. Maybe it's just the demon.
No, just the demon, like always. And so that's whenever we have her. Azumi is now, or she's in the house, and I don't know if was it a dream or not. I don't know, but she like sees her dad.
Yeah, I think it was like time overlapping, maybe a little bit. But she is going and looking through in the house and sees her dad there, and he kind of stands up weirdly, and then she is back in her bedroom, right? Because nothing really happens with the dad, right? No, she just sees him.
And he's not even talking to her. He's just kind of like,
he can't get words out.
Yeah.
And then she's back in her bedroom, and all 3 girls are now outside Izumi's window.
Yeah.
And because you see one girl's eyes pop up through like one of the holes in the newspaper, and then the other 2's. And so then you're like, oh shit. And Izumi's like, oh shit. And
she's chased through her house.
Yeah, because then they're in there with her.
And
then the main Grudge, Kayako, is that who it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pulls her in through the like altar in their house that they had for her father.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, now she's dead with her father, because we saw her father's head and her head like show up on the altar.
Pretty sick, pretty crazy stuff, bah. She never stood a chance. And she was
at first I thought she got pulled into a TV. And I was like, oh, this is like the ring.
It was the cover.
But except for she comes out of the TV.
It was the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe after all.
I did think it was also a wardrobe. And was like, Narnia?
Mr. Tumnus. Spaun. And so we are now on our final chapter, and it is Kayako's story. It's her final turn to be told what's happening. But we start with Rika. Rika's talking on the phone outside of her welfare center job. And then we have this old man who's like trying to play like peekaboo with her, or who we thought is her. And
I immediately was like, this is some invisible kid that he's playing peekaboo with.
And
because he was like looking past her.
Oh yeah. I thought he was just like deranged, but then this
I definitely thought he was playing with a ghost.
And then he's like, no, I'm not talking to you. And then that's for real. And then that's whenever we see her talking to him, she's like, I'm coming back in, Mr. So-and-so. And when we see her and Cohen get him, and then I guess they go outside. At a certain point, we see on the doors the reflection of her and him, and then the little boy is right there next to him. And so then we have her, Rika, she ends up meeting Mariko, right? Her friend?
Yeah, but she takes a shower first, doesn't she?
Oh, yeah, she goes.
And we get the shower hand scene of the other hand, which this scene still scares. I mean, I've only seen the American Grudge before this, but this scene is one that stuck with me because, like that fear of having your eyes closed while you're doing your shampoo and stuff is so scary. And then to feel another hand back there, like, no. That's some scary shit.
And that happens, but she barely feels it. Like, and then it goes away, and then she's like, okay, I guess that's normal.
I guess it's normal to have a hand on my head.
And we meet up with Mariko, and they're having dinner, aren't they?
Yeah, and you're at like a pretty nice little restaurant, and it's got like tablecloths, and they go down to the floor and stuff. So yeah, pretty fancy. And she feels something. Yeah, and then she looks under the table, and Toshio's sitting there again with his knees hiked up to his chest and his little fingers on his kneecaps, and he's just like
and she freaks out, rightfully so, and everybody's like, what the fuck? And she's just like, needs to go home because she's like, I'm not feeling well, I guess. And then that's whenever she ends up, like, she's trying to take a little nap, she's in her bed, and then she wakes up to these, like, to the meows, to the kitties, and there's like, I'm just like, there's at least like 30 cats in the room.
Yeah, there are so many cats onto her. She just wakes up covered in black cats, and then her phone's ringing, and I was like, how long does her phone ring for? Because she didn't answer it for quite a bit, because she stood up, she did this with her hands, like covered her eyes, and saw Toshio out of the corner of her eye, and then finally answers the phone.
And it's Mariko, and she's like, remember that problem child I'm talking to you about? Well, I don't know what to do because I'm finally at his house and I'm here with him, but his parents haven't been here. And
there's no one here except for him and his grandma, right? Is that what he says?
Yeah, that's what Mariko says. And so then she's like, where exactly are you? And then that's whenever Rika hears the cat over the line. She's like, fuck, I know where you're at.
Yeah. And this is where I was like, is time overlapping? Because it doesn't seem as straightforward as like our chapters aren't lining up exactly perfectly like a little puzzle piece. They're kind of like and then all at the same time. And so I was a little confused. But in a good way.
Especially because Mariko, like I was about to say Kira, Rika gets to the house and there's police tape. Like,
yeah, and I was like, did Mariko willingly enter a crime scene?
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, wait, like, what do you mean? That's what I was like, how did Mariko not see that? Yeah. And I was like, maybe she didn't because maybe it wasn't there because of the whole
I don't think Mariko was ever in the house.
Oh.
I think it was a ploy to get Rika back.
Oh, maybe. You could be right.
And because we never really see Mariko in the house, do we?
No, she just goes after her.
But we do see her shoes.
We see her legs like getting pulled up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Rika goes in there running after her. And then she like hears her and she sees her little legs getting pulled into the attic. And that's when she goes up there. And she like starts to like look around, and then we see the Grudge up in the attic, like making her little noise, and she freaks out, of course. And Rika is getting chased through the house essentially, but she starts to realize that like the old man and Sachi could see the ghost by doing this. I don't know.
Yeah, she realizes that by covering her face, she can. Like, because that was when she realized earlier, whenever she woke up and covered her face, she saw Toshio out of the corner of her eye. And so, yeah, she realized like that was how she could see the ghost. But then she like turns into the Grudge. Kayako. By whenever she does cover her face.
Yeah, because it like starts coming out of her belly.
Yeah, and then she covers her face, and then she like turns into the Grudge, and then the thing like starts coming out of her stomach, and it's like, hello,
I am you, but stronger.
Yeah, and then now the Grudge girl Kayako is coming down the stairs covered in blood this time, and she's never breaking eye contact. That was so unnerving to me. Is how even every time she just like moved or took a corner, her head was just like
always looking. Yeah.
So creepy.
And as she gets all the way down, it's almost like begging for help from Rika. The dad comes out.
Ugh. And sorry, the 1.2, her cheek like smushed up against the railing, and then you can see just like this like slime go with it whenever she pulled her face away, and I was like,
yeah,
that's pretty icky. Yeah.
And Daddy-O comes out, and I guess
because she makes it all the way down there.
Oh yeah.
And like is like reaching for her but falls short. And then, that's when Seiki comes down and he is now reaching for her. And we see a little Toshio watching up at the banister again. And he's just watching on as the dad comes and reaches for her as she yells no. And then we get flashes of shots of the city. And it's like a pretty deserted looking city. Like there's no one really in the picture, right?
Yeah. It's supposed to depict that like the curse starts spreading around and everybody's dying because there was like more missing posters and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So like the curse is spreading. Yeah, essentially.
And then we pan in on who I assume was Kyoko's face. And or was it Rika?
It's Rika. So I thought it was Kyoko, but I looked it up and apparently
it's
all
Rika.
of the times that Rika saw like under the blanket,
it was her own self.
It was her own self. And like all these other times it was her own like future ghost self trying to scare her out of the
going to the house. So it's very much Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, it's very much like she still created her own time loop situation.
Yeah. And like bent neck lady trying to warn Nell about going back to the house and stuff too.
But her doing that ends up starting it anyways. It's like the chain of events. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a loop. But yeah, it pans in on Rika's face, and as her eyes open, we get a final.
And then like the bloodshot eyes. And that's it. And that is the end of Ringu. I mean, Ju-on.
Ju-on, the Grudge.
Yes. And this was requested to us by Miss Emma, of course, as we mentioned. And let's go ahead and read Emma's review first.
Okay. Do you want me to read it or do you want to read it?
I love when you read them.
Okay.
Do you have it up?
I do.
Okay, cute.
I have to just scroll up a little bit. Okay. So Emma goes on to say that on the Others episode, you guys were talking about the first horror movie that really had an impact on you. And she said that is what Ju-on is for me, which I could see that, especially if you watched it in like 2002, like, holy shit, I would be terrified. This is very bloody and stuff.
As a little kid, I would be scared of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was scared of The Grudge, so that makes sense when it came out.
I remember thinking The Grudge was funny, but
I also was like, I used to get really scared of scary movies when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like little.
I was scared of The Ring, but I think like I saw The American Grudge afterwards, and then I just thought it was comical a little bit.
Because you were like, this is The Ring, but like not as scary.
But not as scary. Yeah, exactly. So I really would like to go back because I've only seen The Grudge like one time. Yeah, so same. I would like to go back and watch The American Grudge. But anyways, she says, that's what Ju-on is for me. She says, I always enjoyed horror movies, but this was the first one I saw beyond childhood that really grabbed me and gave me a whole new appreciation and love for the genre. I have rewatched it so many times and it still gets under my skin like not much else does. The whole atmosphere and premise of the movie is so unsettling. There is nowhere that's safe once this curse has a hold of you, which is true. That is terrifying. She says it will follow you around until it gets you, and not even your own bed is safe. And then she was like, how great is that scene? And I was like, yes. It was so great, but also so scary.
Yeah, especially for you, because you're always like, your bed is your safe place.
That's my safe place. Don't grab my little feetsies. Don't crawl on top of me. I don't like it. And then she goes on to say the way that the whole movie is shot, jumping between timelines, and adds to the confusion and unease. And the whole thing is so unfair. There is no moral distinction, no safety in being a good person. You can just be in the wrong place at the wrong time or pass by the wrong person and you're done. It's such a scary reminder that we have a very little real control and shit can go sideways for no reason at any time. Honestly, the first 10 seconds with the cat are the only thing I really don't like about the movie. Otherwise, it's chef's kiss, and even the questionable early aughts hairstyles can't take me out of it. 5 boos all day.
Yeah.
They did have some it reminded me of like Rika's hairstyle reminded me of there's this K-drama called Boys Over Flowers, which is like a really dramatic K-drama, a high school K-drama.
Like Degrassi.
Yeah, but their hairstyles were I'll send you a picture of the Boys Over Flowers boys. Okay. Because their hairstyles are the funniest thing to watch back.
Is it like old? Or is it like current?
No, it's old.
Okay, that makes sense.
But and then to read a little update, I asked her had watched the American Grudge. She said yes, it's good. She said I think it's almost a shot for shot the same, but I don't like it as much. It's missing the constant dread and full vibe of the Japanese one, and I can't see Sarah Michelle as anything but Buffy. It's worth watching though.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll have to give it a watch.
Yeah. I'm trying to find one that like really emphasizes how awful their hair was.
Let's see. I'll start to go with my boo rating.
Yeah, tell me your boo rating.
I really liked it. I watched it this morning, and it's one, I love how it's in chapters, so it's really easy, like you said, to digest. It was super easy to break it up, and especially since they were like kind of things overlapped a bit, I think like that helped to make it be a bit more cohesive, and like the chapters were almost like just it's the same time, but just like we said, from different people's perspective. So that's why some of the things overlap. I don't know. I thought like it was generally pretty scary. Like the vibes were pretty creepy. All the times that we saw the Grudge like spirit itself, she was super creepy. And I see now.
Their hair was so bad.
Wow. And so, but like also pretty at the same time.
Yeah. Like so good. Yeah. So bad it hurts.
And I thought that it's a pretty, like we said, kind of like Smile, and like it follows almost in a way. Like you're kind of screwed because it's just like once you catch it, you grab it, and then you just die.
You just die. Yeah, there's no getting out of this.
Unfortunately not. And I don't know. It was really interesting because you have like a story that's kind of like a ghost story, but then it's like a true, like a crime story because something happened with the dad. And so we're trying to figure with like the past family, and then they're trying to link together what's happening now. It was like I watched the non-English version. And so that definitely added a different layer to it in keeping up and trying to, I don't know, like, it's like, does that make sense? I don't know. It was different watching it in a different language, but I still felt like I was so just like enwrapped in it and stuff. And if anything, I had to pay attention even more to like what they're saying and to the captions so that we could like figure out what's going on. And yeah, it was a bit confusing at times just because of like the different, like, I didn't know if we were like, are we in the past or in the future? Is this a time warp thing? Especially when the dad was looking at Izumi at a certain point, and they were both in the house.
Yeah, and like whenever you mentioned that they heard about Rika's death on the news and stuff too, and that was way before Rika actually died.
Yeah.
And so Rika died around the same time, or way after Rika actually died. But way before in the movie, whenever she actually died.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a loop. But I think it's a really good, smart movie, good horror movie. I actually will give it 5 boos.
5 boos?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I'm sitting with you at a 5 too.
Yeah, it was really good.
Like, I don't have any eyebrows like this.
You look like Spock. Captain Spock. I don't have any qualms. Like, I can't say like they did this part bad or that was bad or that was not explained well enough, or like it was explained well enough, but then also gave us a bit of like smarts to it, you know, like it had depth. You got to think about it a little bit more, especially when it comes to the like whole time kind of loses itself in the house, and the house is really only, and then also like it was born from the Sachi, what's his name, Seiki, killing his family, right? But who's to say like the house itself didn't have something to like influence that beforehand,
like an Amityville horror situation.
Exactly, because that's what it almost felt like. Because the dad lost his mind basically, and then killed them, and was like, "She has another lover. He's not even my kid." Like, what if that was all his own like psychological like, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's what's explained in the prequels. Who knows?
Yeah, I'd be definitely interested to watch the other ones that are all about the same premise. Because I was a little confused, but not in a way that like made me dislike it. It was I was kept in the dark in a good way. And I think I'm going to sit with you at 5 boos, and Emma as well at 5 boos. Just because this film is a classic. Like, it really, it's what started. I mean, it came after The Ring and has some similarities, but like, not really. Like,
it's its own story.
It's a little boy, not a little girl. There's no wells. There's no TVs. There's nothing. There's no horses.
No video, no 7 days, no nothing like that.
Yeah. It's just, and like with The Ring, you can get out of it. And
that's right. If you show someone else the tape, right?
Yeah. And you spread the curse, you can get out of it. But now I don't remember, was that the case in Ringu as well? Or did they just all die?
I think they all died in Ringu.
Yeah, I think they all died in Ringu as well. I think the American version made it.
Because they wanted to leave it up for like the sequels and stuff.
Yeah. But I think...
I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think this film was really good. Really amazing. Phenomenal overall. It was super. It's only an hour and 32 minutes. So it's like a breeze to watch. And then again, it's like cut up into 5 short movies, little chapters. And so it makes it really easy to get through. The acting was all very believable. Even albeit like early 2000s kind of camera angles and stuff like that. But I still thought it was all very good and very believable. It was, everyone looked like they had genuine fear and terror on their faces. And maybe they were, if I had like those monsters dressed up coming towards me, I'd be pretty scared too. So that was pretty good. Oh, I didn't read any fun facts, did I?
No, let's go for it.
But yeah, I think I would sit with a 5 as well, because it was a really good movie in my opinion. Let's see. We already said this, but this film is actually the 3rd installment of the Ju-On series and the first to get a wide theatrical release. It was preceded by two low-budget films from 2000 known as Ju-on the Curse and Ju-on the Curse 2, also from 2000, whose storylines are continued in this sequel.
Okay, yeah. So
it's cool that you could watch this one as a standalone, but it would probably make more sense to watch it with The Curse and The Curse 2. The house used in the film was not a constructed set, but a real location, which had to be rented for film production. It became a tourist attraction following the film's franchise's popularity, and the house was demolished in 2019. No.
Sad day. Can't visit it.
I was like, oh shit, I'm going to go there when I visit Japan someday. And now I can't. I'll go see its empty
That's what's saved a lot.
Yeah.
Or the new building of like high-rise apartments that's in its place.
I'll still go find it. Let's see. Toshio's spirit is often heard meowing throughout the film. Not only does this imply that his spirit merged with the deceased cat Mar, but it also relates to an old Japanese legend where the damned spirits of lost children become strays and as a result produce a cat's meow.
Oh.
Interesting. It took 2 hours to apply the white makeup to Takako Fuji and Yuya Ozeki in order for them to play their ghostly incarnations of their characters.
That's a long time of makeup.
Yeah. Probably make sure that stuff's not like crusty and stuff too coming off.
Yeah.
And then Kayako and Toshio are based on Japanese legend of the Onryo, a vengeful spirit that, unlike Western ghosts, can physically manifest to attack and kill victims, whereas Western ghosts are just energy and can't physically appear. They manifest when they are killed in a state of deep rage, as explained by the opening title card.
Yeah.
Onryo.
I would explain it. Onryo. That's kind of a cool name for something that's vengeful and evil.
Yeah. Sam Raimi helped Sony option the remake rights, as he was a big fan of this film, saying it terrified him.
Who?
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi. Okay.
Dead.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh, that makes sense.
Let's see. There's quite a few fun facts. The backstory that creates this curse is in this series is strongly reminiscent of the myth of Oiwa, a traditional Japanese Onryo legend. Oiwa, it's Oiwa. Oiwa.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Was a housewife disfigured and brutally murdered by her unfaithful husband. She returns to haunt him and makes him murder his new lover. According to the legend, a curse accompanies her story, and that those who retell it will suffer injuries and even death. The disfigured aspects of the Onryo is likely what inspired Sadako Yamamura's appearance in Ringu. 1998 was Ringu.
1998. Wow.
Yeah.
That's such a long time ago.
But yeah.
Love it. Those are fun facts.
Oh, yeah. The Yuya Ozeki is terrified of cats. So who played Toshio is terrified of cats in real life. So making any filming scenes with Toshio's pet cat Mar rather troublesome.
That sounds like a really big problem when your scene partner is a cat and you meow like a cat.
To be a kitty cat the whole time. That's pretty funny.
Poor kid. Well, I hope he conquered that fear by the time this was over.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a really good. So, five boos.
5 boos all around. We loved it. It was great. And now I'm probably going to spend the rest of the day watching the original Grudge. Not the original Grudge, the American Grudge.
Yeah. And then I also
this was the original Grudge.
I want to watch a like recap of like the
Curse and Curse 2.
Yeah, just kind of get like a gist of what happened beforehand. I think that sounds like a plan. But once again, we are being taken care of by the lovely Rogue Media Network Studios, and you can watch our podcasts and a whole bunch of other podcasts on their website at roguemedianetwork.com.
That's right. And if you want to listen to us or any of those other podcasts, you can do so on a slew of podcasting platforms, basically wherever you get your podcasts. But the biggest two would be
Spotify
and also Apple. But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that is the only way we can get ahead in this world. And then if you want to let us know your thoughts on Ju-on, if you liked the American Grudge better, if you thought the American Grudge was shit, if you thought this one was shit, or if you loved them, you can reach out to us on our one social media platform, which is Instagram. And that is at
BOOBAES podcast. Go to your boo-babes, not your boo-babes.
That's right. And let us know, slide into our DMs with your favorite movie and we'll cover it. It might be a while now because we're going to go back to covering our scheduled movies. And then with the exception of the special guests we have coming on, we'll cover a movie of their choosing. But yeah.
Yeah.
So let us know your request and we'll cover it eventually. It might take us like 2 years, like it did for Chantal, but we'll eventually get to it.
We will. And we enjoy talking to y'all and hearing your thoughts on the opinions on the movies that we are covering. So
yes, it is fun to talk to y'all. It's my favorite pastime.
And until next time.
Until I almost said see you on the other side, like Two Girls, One Ghost. I was ready to sign off for their podcast.
You're ready. You got all the practice, baby. Till next time.
They're reading my episode.
When is
by
that?
the way, which I told you, it'll come out November 7th. So way after this episode, it'll be already out. So if you listen to Two Girls, One Ghost episode, let me pull it up real fast. Encounters. Encounters 256. It'll come out Thursday, November 7th, 2024. So if you listen to that and then hear about a little girl and thinking that she had a penis when she was a girl and saying it fell off, but it'll grow back someday, that would be me. That would be me. So yeah, go listen to that episode and
follow Two Girls,
One Ghost. And yes, and then remember that this is not that podcast. Our sign off is bye bays.
Bye bays.
Yes.
Until next time.
Okay, until next time, you guys. Bye bays.
Boo-bays.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production. Are you a podcaster? Let's talk podcast hosting. Are you tired of your current podcast host? Need real support in a community that gets it? At Rogue Media Network, we offer top-tier podcast hosting services to help you thrive. From hosting and distribution to dedicated support, we've got you covered. Starting as low as $25 a month. Join our community of passionate podcasters today. Contact us at hello@roguemedianetwork.com.